The Silent Return. The Galactic Concordat had prospered for 8 centuries since the Sundering, the cataclysmic wars that had reshaped the known universe. In the Grand Council chambers on Viridia Prime, representatives from 1,000 worlds debated trade agreements, territorial disputes, and technological exchanges with the practiced ease of a civilization that had known stability for generations. Ambassador Threllax of the Vespid Dominion gestured with his 4 upper limbs as he addressed the chamber. These stories of human return are nothing but superstitious nonsense. Humanity died in the Sundering, as our histories clearly state. The chamber hummed with agreement. Humans were a ghost story, a cautionary tale told to young ones, a species that had once threatened to dominate the galaxy before their sudden and complete disappearance. "We have more pressing matters," continued Threllax. "The energy fluctuations in the cerulean expanse require our immediate." The chamber doors slid open with a hiss, interrupting the ambassador mid-sentence. Science Director Laria Venn strode in, her normally immaculate appearance disheveled, her gray eyes wide with urgency. "Forgive the interruption," she said, her voice steady despite her appearance. "We've detected something that cannot wait." The High Chancellor, an ancient Arcturian with silver scales and eyes like liquid mercury, leaned forward. "Speak, Director Venn." She activated the central holographic display, revealing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. A series of red pulses emanated from the region known as the Dead Zone, a vast, radioactive wasteland left by the final battles of the Sundering. "These signals began 3 standard cycles ago," she explained. "At first, we believed them to be residual radiation patterns, but the frequencies are too regular, too precise. A natural phenomenon," suggested a Medusan representative, tentacles twitching nervously. "No," said Venn firmly. "They are artificial and encoded with a language pattern we haven't seen in 8 centuries. She paused, letting her words sink in. "It's human communication protocol." The chamber erupted in chaos. Humanity was a myth, a legend. They couldn't possibly have survived. Their homeworld Earth had been lost to time, their colonies obliterated. There had been no trace of human civilization for centuries. "Impossible," roared Threllax. "The humans are extinct." "Send a reconnaissance team," the High Chancellor ordered, silencing the room with a gesture. "We must know the truth." The exploration vessel Seeker drifted at the edge of the Dead Zone, its advanced shielding barely protecting the crew from the residual radiation. Captain Zorakel, a blue-skinned Proximan with cybernetic enhancements, studied the sensor readings with growing unease. "The signal is stronger here," reported her science officer. "Bem. Definitely artificial, definitely originating from deeper within the zone." "No known species has settlements in the Dead Zone," Zora said. "Nothing could survive there." "Nothing we know of," Bem countered. "But the signals are undeniable." Zara made her decision. "Take us in." Minimal power, stealth protocols engaged. The Seeker slipped into the Dead Zone, navigating through fields of debris, the remnants of ancient battles. Twisted metal, some pieces larger than small moons, drifted through the void. The ship's sensors detected trace elements consistent with starship hulls, planetary defense systems, and weapons of unimaginable power. After 3 days of careful navigation, they found it. "Captain," Bem called, his voice tight with disbelief. Visual contact established. The main screen activated, revealing an immense structure floating in space. It was clearly artificial, a massive space station or shipyard, its surface dotted with lights and movement. Ships of unfamiliar design moved around it, some docking, others departing into the depths of space. "That's impossible," whispered Zara. "Nothing survives in the Dead Zone." "It's not just surviving," Bem replied. "It's thriving. And based on the design architecture and energy signatures. Captain, I believe this is human." Zara stared at the screen, a chill running down her spine. "How?" "They vanished centuries ago." "Perhaps," Ben suggested. "They didn't vanish. Perhaps they withdrew. Before Zara could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple vessels approaching. They've detected us. Evasive maneuvers, Zara ordered. Prepare for emergency jump. The Seeker turned, engines flaring as it attempted to escape. But the approaching ships moved with impossible speed, surrounding the exploration vessel in seconds. They were sleek, predatory craft, their hulls gleaming with an alloy unknown to the Concordat. A communication request pinged on their system. They want to talk, them said. Zara hesitated, then nodded. Open the channel. The screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was disturbingly familiar yet alien, a human face, though not quite as depicted in the ancient texts. The skin was paler, the eyes with a subtle luminescence that suggested genetic modification. Concordat vessel, the human said in perfect galactic standard. You have entered restricted space. State your purpose. Zara found her voice. I am Captain Zara Kell of the exploration vessel Seeker. We detected signals and came to investigate. The human's expression remained neutral. You shouldn't have been able to detect anything. Our shielding is absolute. Apparently not, Zara replied, her courage returning. Who are you? Humans are believed extinct. A slight smile curved the human's lips. Beliefs can be mistaken, Captain. Humans are very much alive. We simply chose isolation until now. Until now, Zara repeated. Yes, the human confirmed. After centuries of preparation, humanity is returning to the galactic stage. Your discovery of us is premature, but not unexpected. Why now? Zara asked. The human's eyes hardened. Because it's time the galaxy remembered what they once feared. You will be escorted back to Concordat space. Deliver this message to your council. The children of Earth are coming home. In the great archives of Centauri Prime, Scholar Davin searched frantically through records that hadn't been accessed in centuries. The news of the Seeker's encounter with humans had spread like wildfire across the Concordat, and the archives had been flooded with requests for information about the long-forgotten species. There must be something here, Davin muttered, his six-fingered hands moving swiftly over the ancient control panels. Something that explains why they vanished. His assistant, a young Solarian named Mira, looked up from her terminal. I may have found something. It's a sealed record, classified under the highest security protocols. Can you access it? Mira shook her head. It requires council authorization. Then we go to the council, Davin decided. Hours later, with special dispensation granted, they stood before the sealed archives. The security system scanned their retinas, verified their authorization, and with a soft hiss, the vault opened for the first time in 800 years. Inside was a single data crystal, glowing with internal light. When activated, it projected a holographic recording of an ancient council session, one from the final days before the Sundering. The hologram showed a human diplomat, her face etched with exhaustion and anger, addressing a council that looked very different from the current one. You have made your position clear, the human was saying. Humanity is to be contained, our technologies restricted, our colonies limited. You fear what we might become. A counselor responded. Your species advances too quickly, develops technologies too dangerous. The good of the galaxy. The good of the galaxy, the human interrupted. Or the good of your dominance. We came to you as equals, offering cooperation. You responded with fear and suppression. Your weapons could destroy worlds, another counselor said. Weapons we developed because you threatened us. The human shot back. But very well. If isolation is what you desire, isolation is what you shall have. Humanity will withdraw from galactic affairs. Withdraw? There was disbelief in the counselor's voice. Yes, the human said quietly. We will take our people, our ships, our knowledge, and we will go where you cannot follow. But remember this warning. One day, we will return. And when we do, we will not ask for a place at your table. We will build our own. The recording ended, leaving Davin and Mira in stunned silence. They didn't die out, Mira finally whispered. They left, deliberately. And now they're coming back, Davin added. After 8 centuries of isolation, of independent development, what will they be capable of now? Mira asked, her voice trembling. Davin had no answer. The news spread rapidly through the galaxy. Human ships had been sighted at the edges of Concordat space. Not just scouts or diplomatic vessels, but massive ships, warships of designs unknown to Concordat engineers, with capabilities that defied current understanding of physics. On Viridia Prime, the council chamber was in an uproar. We must establish diplomatic contact, urged one faction. We should mobilize our fleets, countered another. For what purpose? Asked the High Chancellor. If the humans wanted war, they could have struck already. They choose to reveal themselves slowly, deliberately. A message alert sounded, silencing the debate. The central display activated, showing the human face, different from the one that had confronted Captain Kell, but with the same unnerving luminescence in the eyes. Greetings, Galactic Concordat, the human said. I am Admiral Helena Voss of the Earth Alliance. After 8 centuries of separation, humanity seeks to rejoin galactic society. The chamber was silent, every representative frozen in shock or fear. We have no desire for conflict, Admiral Voss continued, but neither will we accept the restrictions of the past. We come as equals, no more, no less. We request a formal meeting with your full council in neutral space to discuss terms of reintegration. The High Chancellor found his voice. And if we refuse? Admiral Voss's expression didn't change. That would be unfortunate, but it would not change the outcome. Humanity has returned to the stars. You can welcome us as allies or face us as. She paused. Well, let's simply say that would be unwise. The screen went dark, leaving the council in silence. Was that a threat? Someone finally asked. No, the High Chancellor replied. His ancient eyes troubled. It was a statement of fact. The myths we laughed at have returned, and now we must decide how to face them. Reckoning of forgotten power. The neutral meeting ground was a space station at the crossroads of 3 major trade routes, hastily cleared of civilian traffic. Representatives from the Concordat arrived first, their vessels forming a protective perimeter around the station. High Chancellor Morith himself led the delegation, accompanied by military advisors and diplomatic specialists from a dozen worlds. They're here, announced the station's sensor operator, voice tight with tension. A single human vessel approached, not one of the massive warships that had been sighted along the borders, but a sleek diplomatic craft. It docked with perfect precision. The airlock cycling opened to reveal Admiral Helena Voss, flanked by 4 humans of varying appearances. The human delegation entered the conference room with measured steps. Admiral Voss, tall and regal with silver-streaked dark hair, took her place at the table. Her companions, 2 men and 2 women, each bearing subtle genetic adaptations suggesting specialized functions, stood slightly behind her. High Chancellor, Voss said, inclining her head. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Chancellor Morith's mercury eyes studied her carefully. When a dormant power suddenly reawakens, it would be foolish to ignore their call. A slight smile touched Voss's lips. Honest, at least. Shall we begin? The negotiations lasted for hours. The humans presented their proposal: recognition of Earth Alliance sovereignty, access to trade routes, and exchange of cultural and scientific knowledge. In return, they offered technologies that, while carefully controlled, were centuries beyond current Concordat capabilities. These terms seem reasonable, said Ambassador Threllax, who had been among the loudest skeptics of human existence. But they leave important questions unanswered. Where have you been for 8 centuries? How did you survive the sundering? And why return now? Admiral Voss considered the Vespid representative. We left because we were given no choice. The old Concordat feared our potential and sought to restrict us. Rather than submit or fight a war we might not win, We chose a third path. Exodus, supplied Morith. Precisely, Voss confirmed. We took our people beyond the galactic rim to regions unexplored and uninhabitable to most species. There we adapted, evolved, and built the civilization free from external constraints. And now, press Threllax. Now we've reached the limits of isolation. For continued growth, we need interaction with other species, other perspectives. And, Voss hesitated, we've detected signs of something approaching from intergalactic space, something that concerns us greatly. The room fell silent. What kind of signs? Chancellor Morith asked quietly. Before Voss could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. A communications officer rushed in, mandibles clicking in agitation. Chancellor, multiple unidentified vessels have appeared at the edge of the system. They're not responding to hails and are moving toward the station. Admiral Voss stood, her expression hardening. Those aren't human ships. Outside, the void bloomed with light as unknown vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel. They were organic in appearance, with hulls that seemed to pulse and writhe. Without warning, they opened fire on the Concordat's defensive perimeter. "We're under attack," shouted a military advisor. The station shuddered as nearby explosions disrupted its stabilizers. On external monitors, Concordat vessels attempted to form a defensive line, but their weapons seemed ineffective against the strange organic hulls of the attackers. Admiral Voss touched a communicator on her wrist. Voss to command. Execute Protocol Sentinel. Authorization Alpha 9 Delta. Within moments, the space around the station lit up with new arrivals. Human warships materializing from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. They were massive, gleaming constructs of technology so advanced it seemed almost magical. Without hesitation, they engaged the attacking vessels. The battle was brief but intense. The human ships moved with impossible precision, their weapons tearing through the organic hulls of the attackers. Within minutes, the threat was neutralized, the attacking force reduced to drifting debris. In the conference room, Chancellor Morith and his delegation stared at Admiral Voss with new understanding and fear. "You knew this would happen," Morith said. "It wasn't a question." "We suspected," Voss corrected. "These are scouts for what we call the Void Collective, a hive consciousness that consumes civilizations. We encountered them beyond the rim and have been fighting them for nearly a century. They've begun probing this galaxy, and they will not stop with mere reconnaissance forever. This is why you've returned," Ambassador Threllax realized. "Not for trade or diplomacy, but because you need allies against this threat." "We could have stayed hidden," Voss countered. "Let the Concordat face the collective alone. But despite our history, we chose to warn you, to help you." "At what cost?" demanded Morith. "Recognition of what we are," Voss replied simply. "Not a myth to be laughed at, not a threat to be contained, but equals with a right to exist freely. The Void Collective cannot be defeated by a divided galaxy. United, we might stand a chance." In the days that followed, fragments of the organic ships were analyzed in laboratories across Concordat space. The results confirmed Admiral Voss's warnings. The technology was designed for absorption and assimilation of other life forms. More disturbing were the neural tissues found within the ship fragments. Sentient beings forcibly integrated into the ship's systems. A wave of fear swept through the galaxy. Suddenly, the human return seemed less threatening than what lurked beyond the galactic rim. On Viridia Prime, the Council reconvened. The debate was heated but focused on a single question. Could they trust humanity? "They could have let us face this threat unprepared," argued one faction. "Or they could be manipulating us, using this collective as a pretext to infiltrate our civilization," countered another. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours," a military advisor pointed out. "If conquest was their goal, why negotiate at all?" The argument might have continued indefinitely if not for the arrival of Scholar Davin. The researcher had spent days in the archives, searching for any reference to the strange organic ships. "Chancellor," "Council members," he began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "I found evidence that the Void Collective is real, and that humanity faced them before." He activated a data crystal, projecting images of ancient texts and fragmentary records. Before the Sundering, human explorers encountered the first scouts of the collective. They warned the old council, but were dismissed as warmongers looking for an excuse to build more weapons. The Sundering itself, Davin continued, wasn't just a war between civilizations. It was the first incursion of the collective into our galaxy. Humanity fought them alone, because no one else believed the threat was real. And when they realized they couldn't win without help, they made the decision to withdraw, to buy time, to develop technologies specifically designed to combat the collective. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. "We cast them out," the High Chancellor finally said. "And they still returned to save us from a threat we ignored." "What do we do now?" asked Threlax. The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Zarakel, who had first encountered the returned humans, stepped forward. "We accept their offer," she said firmly. "Not because we trust them completely, but because we need them. And perhaps after 8 centuries of separation, both sides have changed enough to forge a new path." The formal alliance between the Concordat and the Earth Alliance was signed aboard the human flagship Redemption, a name that carried weight for both sides. Admiral Voss and High Chancellor Morith sealed the agreement while representatives from across the galaxy watched. "This isn't just about survival," Voss said after the signing. "It's about redemption for past mistakes on both sides." "And what happens if we survive this threat?" asked Morith. "Will humanity once again seek isolation?" Voss looked out at the stars visible through the flagship's vast observation window. "We've learned the cost of isolation. Evolution requires challenge, diversity, exchange. No species, not even humans, can reach their potential alone." "Then perhaps," Morith suggested, "this is the beginning of a truly united galaxy." As if to answer, the ship's sensors detected a massive surge of activity at the galaxy's edge. The Void Collective, moving from reconnaissance to invasion. "It begins," Voss said quietly. "The real test of our alliance." Throughout the galaxy, the warning spread. The myth of humanity had become reality, and with it came both threat and salvation. Ships of the Earth Alliance positioned themselves alongside Concordat defenders, preparing for the coming storm. The galaxy had once laughed at human myths. Now those same humans stood as the vanguard against extinction. And as the first wave of the collective approached, a truth crystallized across 1,000 worlds. The humans who had been forgotten, feared, and dismissed as legend might be the only force capable of saving them all. On the bridge of the Redemption, Admiral Voss gave the order that would echo across space. "All ships, defensive positions. We stand together, or we fall alone." The galaxy held its breath as the human war fleet moved to meet destiny.